I'm Audrey Hope. This is Real Women. We're back with Joan Borysenko, and we're talking about honoring the sacred gifts of womanhood. Joan, we're talking about the cycles, and just to recap, we have 7-year cycles. Let's say 0 to 18 months, we start to become, like you say, a natural mystic. Then 1 to 7, we're kind of authentic, kind of truthful. Then from 7 to 14, we start to lose our authentic voice, and we become we get a database of what's acceptable, you said. We go through
That's
that.
right.
And then we have puberty, where we try to regain our authentic voice.
Well, you know, two things are happening because the intuition and the authenticity wants to bloom through right at the same time that society is really saying you can't be authentic, you have to be a people
And you
pleaser.
have to be beautiful.
And you have to be beautiful.
And that's why we have this problem
yes.
with anorexia. And you say in your book, it's a political protest against a society that did not value the feminine.
I love that explanation. Now, you know, I quoted in the book, it's Catherine Steiner Adair from the Stone Center, who puts it that way. She says, maybe it's not a disease of body pathology, but a disease of the body politic. What a way to put it. Because, you know, women of color and Hispanic women have a much better body image and are much less likely to have anorexia. And the feminine is much more alive in those cultures. For example, African American women think, you know, got to have a few extra pounds, got to have some hips, got to, you know, this is attractive. And they also believe that women become more attractive and wiser as they grow old. A grandmother is beautiful.
That's very important. Women
Unlike
get to
our
the
culture,
aging.
where, you know,
Yes.
the window of beauty is so narrow in white culture, and it causes such pain. You know, and I think as women, if I just personally could regain all the energy I wasted over wanting thinner thighs, I could have changed the whole world by myself.
Well, you see, it's interesting because the models are getting thinner, but statistically Americans are getting heavier.
Fatter. That's right.
So what's going on here?
I know.
And then, okay, so we struggle in this time period of puberty with the beauty and with trying to regain our voice. And you use the image of Rapunzel and Snow White as the poison apple of wisdom. And then Snow White sleeps for, like, let's say 7 years. And how she wakes up. Does she resolve her caring for others versus caring for herself? You say selfful or selfish in this time period.
Yes.
And Joan, if she doesn't, she will carry it her whole life.
Her whole life.
And she won't be able to metamorphosize through the cycles.
See, that's, I think, really the tension point for women in our lives is the fact that we are so empathic, that we are so caring, and that we can give ourselves away totally until there's nothing left. And so that fine line between saying, how do I take care of myself without feeling selfish toward other people, is something that, at least in the circle of women I know, hardly any of us have resolved. We're all still, you know, kind of in the borderlands with that, although in midlife it starts to get a little easier. And you start to realize, if I do not care for myself, truly I can never be of service to others because I'm going to drop dead over here. You know, and I've had to truly say to people, you know, like, the cafeteria's closed, go eat somewhere else.
That's right. You just sort of accept things. Okay, so we come out of that, we may resolve the issue of self-others, and then we get into aging. Well, no, the stage before that is love. 21 to 28, you talk about love.
We get into
now
those mother years, because
well, I have to go
the
with this.
physiology of love is
Why
cool.
am I attracted?
Right.
He's not my type.
Because you
What
like
is that
the
all
smell
about?
of his armpits.
The
How did
smell
you
of his
like that?
armpits. Maybe I married him
Research.
because I like the smell of
That's
his armpits.
right. You didn't even know pheromones, because there was that cool piece of research. They
Oh
took
my God.
sweatshirts men had slept in for a week. They put them in boxes with holes. Women had to smell the boxes and rank the odor on a scale of 1, most disgusting thing I'm going to throw up, to 10, like sexy beyond belief. And women were not wishy-washy. Either you liked the smell or you didn't. And what one woman might find great, another found hideous. And it turned out it had to do with histocompatibility antigens on the surface of cells, which, without going into a big falderall, happens that you want to marry somebody whose histocompatibility antigens are different, which means that the immune system of the offspring will be stronger.
Amazing.
So there's this biological attraction.
Amazing.
And here we think, you know, it has to do with the qualities of the person, which it does to some extent, but we project so much on them. And if those histocompatibility antigens are right, then the limbic system starts to pump out a hormone. Same thing we find in chocolate, by the way.
Right.
And suddenly, this could
That's
take
so
Quasimodo, and Quasimodo looks really good when you've got those hormones coming out. And then 6 months later, you come to your senses and said, I married an axe murderer? Why did I do this?
Funny. That's
So we have
well, then
to
we end up in
really-
our 30s, and then we say, maybe we'll get divorced, right? I mean, we take you say the architectural role model of the traditional versus the anti-traditional.
Right.
I mean, what we do in the 30s, maybe we'll just go out and start all over again. We start to contemplate life.
we start to, we, in the 30s, we're practicing the various roles that we've taken on earlier. And by the time we're in our mid-30s, we're in a cycle of healing. And I know, because I was a therapist for years, women would come in with all kinds of issues, and there was like some kind of inner fire burning. I have to heal these issues. I'm tired of being sick of my mother or angry at my father. I'm tired of having my energy drained. And what is actually happening at that time is we're starting to clear stuff out, because we're about to come into the true power surge of wisdom in the 40s as we start the changes, the psychobiological changes of midlife. So
Menopause, too.
yeah, so we go through a healing cycle, and we make sense out of love, out of loss, out of wisdom, out of the purpose of life. We go through this big transition
But society
in our
doesn't
early
let us
40s.
go through menopause naturally.
Well, that's the trouble.
That
And
is the trouble. We
It's
cannot.
a disease, just like pregnancy is a disease.
It's a disease, Joan. It's a very big disservice to us as women.
I
it
think
needs
so.
to be changed more than anything else, because, like you say, menopause could be a gift. It's enhanced wisdom.
It is enhanced wisdom, and there's an enormous flowering of intuition that comes at the time of menopause. I remember noticing that flowering in my mother. These days, we would have said she was a medical intuitive. My mother could have been famous. Those days, she used to call herself either the witch or the brain surgeon. Somebody would call on the phone, my Auntie Bertha. She would say, so new, so Lily, my liver hurts, I thought, but the doctor says it's an ulcer. And my mother would say, mark my words. The show started like that. It's your gallbladder. When she finished, she would say, I have spoken. Now, it's hard to be the teenage daughter of a witch, because she knew just what boys were not good for me, and she was not quiet about this. But this flowers and flourishes. And in many indigenous cultures, women who got to be the grandmothers, these were the medicine carriers, these were the oracles, these were the wise women. And women waited all their life for the flowering into this stage. And here, we get the black balloons at 50, you're over the hill.
Facelifts.
Get facelifts,
And what
you're
about
not
estrogen
attractive.
therapy? What is that all about?
Well, I'll tell you,
Joan?
scientifically, I want to see more evidence. I really do.
It worries me. My mother's
really
on
do.
estrogen. And I think, like you say in the book, we may need progesterone research.
We do, and what we need is more research, because I think what started, 40 years ago, women just got put on estrogen because it appeared to keep them younger. And most women don't do that well on estrogen and actually don't fill the prescriptions, or they leave them. And then there's a lot of question, is it just the healthier women anyhow that are taking the estrogen, which skews the data? So it's not that estrogen may make you healthier, but that healthier women take it to start with.
Interesting.
Those who are more concerned with their health. There are a lot more studies coming out now. And the average woman, I think our head is spinning. You open Time magazine, you open whatever it is, every magazine, and there's a new study every week, and one contradicts the other. So I know that I'm going to wait a bit, because I want to make sure that I'm not going to do something like thalidomide. I take it because it looks good now, and later pay the piper.
Right. So then after we go through that stage, we get through that menopause, we enter our older age. And you have found through your research that older women who do service are happier.
They're happier.
And healthier and live longer.
That's absolutely right. When we serve others, when we maintain our connection, when we tell our stories, Because the brain circuits even change with age. You know, the brain continues to grow. We do not lose function. People have to let go of that. You might lose your best friend's name, but hey, so what? You know, it comes back. You have a mature moment. But that's because the brain is being rewired for wisdom, particularly for storytelling, which is the way that we have always passed on from generation to generation what needs to be known. And my hope is that the elders now, especially since we're all getting to be elders fast, the baby boom is growing up, that we're the ones who are really going to bring the feminine back through politics, through community, bring these values in and cherish the gifts of aging.
Right. We need the image of the great-grandmother again. We need to embrace that.
We do. We do.
And Joan, I'm sorry we ran out of time. I just would like you to say a quick thing about spiritual optimism. You wrote the book, this is your new book, The Ways of the Mystic.
Ways of the Mystic.
And you talk about the paths to God and what it is to be happy. What is this, Joan?
I think happiness is being comfortable in your own skin in a way that recognizes that you're not isolated, you're part of everything, and you feel that connectedness. So we sit down, we have a conversation, we see each other, we respect each other, and both of us are more because of that meeting. That's happiness. We meet with nature that way, but it's really being part of the interconnectedness of everything.
Oh, that's wonderful, Joan. Thank you so much for joining me.
You're so welcome. It's been great.
It's been great. I'm Audrey Hope for Real Women. Thank you so much.